want to tell you about two average people who overcame unbelievable challenges to lead happy and fulfilling lives. The first is the story of Mongi Kim, a woman I know who escaped from North Korea. Now that alone should get your attention, but here's her story. Mongi and her sister lived in North Korea, and their father was killed by thieves for the food that he was bringing home for his family. Their mother died of stomach cancer because there was no medical care. Mongi and her sister felt that they had no choice but to try to get out of North Korea or they were going to die, either from starvation or something sinister. So they made 3 attempts to get from North Korea into China. And on the first 2 attempts, they were captured and thrown in North Korean prisons where unbelievable atrocities happened to them, things that Mongi simply won't talk about to this day, but they affect her to this day. Finally, on the 3rd attempt, they escaped. They literally crossed mountains and rivers to get into China. And when they got there, Mongi's sister fell into the grip of human traffickers and was forced into marriage. Mongi and her sister had no contact with each other for 9 years. Finally, they were reconnected, and it turned out that in spite of the fact that it was a forced marriage, Mongi's sister was in a good marriage, and they had a son. And Mongi arranged for her sister's husband, and their child, and herself to escape to South Korea. I met Mongi a few summers ago when I was in Washington, D.C., and she was staying with relatives, and I had a chance to visit with her and get to know her a little bit. And she was a delightful, happy person, always upbeat and very optimistic. I asked her, Mongi, how is it that you had all of these terrible things happen to you in your life, and yet you have such a positive outlook? And her answer was profound. She said, you must never forget what happens to you, but you can't allow it to define your life moving forward. I want to tell you about my neighbor, Manchung Ho. Manchung grew up in communist China, and when he was 6 years old, his family were considered untrustworthy communists, and he was sent, along with the rest of his family, to their ancestral village, where no one in their family had lived for 3 generations. Manchung and his siblings were forced to work on the collective farms as part of the Cultural Revolution, and he was forced to give up his musical studies because even at a very young age, he was starting to study the violin to become a concert violinist. After 10 years, the failed experiment called the Cultural Revolution was put to rest, and Manchung was allowed to return to studying the violin and performing. Fast forward a few years, and he comes to the United States to work on a master's degree in violin performance. And he met the woman who's now his wife, and they live across the street from me. And Manchung is always happy and cheerful and a delight to be around. And I asked him, Manchung, you had all these terrible things happen to you. You had 10 years of your life stolen from you. And yet you're always happy and cheerful. How is it? And he said the same thing that Mongi said. He said, you must never forget what happened to you, but you can't allow it to define your life moving forward. And I thought about my own life and about some of the bitter feelings that I harbor over a verbal slight from years before or somebody's unkind action or words. And I realized that I need to let those go. And do you have anger, bitterness, and resentment harboring in your heart over something that happened years before, something much less significant than what happened to Mongi or Manchung? You got to let it go. You must never forget what happened, but are you allowing it to define your life moving forward? For more ideas on how to improve communication and customer service skills, bring my one-day IT customer service training seminar on site to your location for your group, small or large. Visit www.doncrawley.com for the course description and outline. Or pick up a copy of my IT customer service book, The Compassionate Geek, How Engineers, IT Pros, and Other Tech Specialists Can Master Human Relations Skills to Deliver Outstanding Customer Service, available in Kindle and paperback editions through Amazon and other resellers. I once heard a speaker say that anger is a flame that consumes its host. And when we harbor anger, bitterness, and resentment over some word or action from years ago, or even something recent, we allow it to control our lives. So if you're harboring anger, bitterness, and resentment over something that maybe was recently or even years ago, it doesn't matter, can you let it go? Can you remember that forgiveness is not for the forgiven, it's for the forgiver? And when we forgive, when we let go, we break that grip that anger, bitterness, and resentment hold on us today. It's true that you must never forget what happened, but you can make the choice not to allow it to define your life today. I'm Don Crawley. I'll see you next time.